Okay, in our last section, it's about making it real. You've already shared a lot of really great examples, especially in that last response, about what people can do themselves and what developers can do, making smaller models, caching some of their own prompts or otherwise to reuse what they've already generated. Do you have a case study or specific experience where our listeners will get a really good sense of wrestling with some of these complexities of responsible AI, either in day-to-day work or something that you've hit? Any practical experience that you could share with our listeners?
I've got a few cases where I ran the AI ethics board. In fact, I still run the AI ethics board, where we look at the use cases of AI that pose ethical challenges. There's obviously many that I can't really discuss for obvious reasons, but let me give a hypothetical one. Let's say an organization wants to use AI to deliver insights on its customers to one of their clients. That's a corporate customer. It could be an insurance company looking at its data on its customers and sending that information to a corporate client, which could be another company. And now let's say that those insights have been generated using AI. But let's say that customer, the corporate customer, is maybe an online gambling company. Let's put it that way. So a company that engages, so it's a legal entity in its own right, it's not doing anything wrong, and it employs people, and it's a legitimate organization, but it just happens to engage in something that's online gambling. How would people feel about their data being kind of sold or given to an institutional client? I think some people would go, I'm not quite happy about that, even though my data is anonymized and the gambling company can never know that's my data. There are patterns in my spending that would give that gambling company insights into maybe how people behave, which would allow it to maybe advertise more effectively, which effectively would help their bottom line. I don't know if that's something I would feel particularly good about as a customer. There's a real ethical challenge there of the use of AI. The insurance company might say, oh, hold on, this corporate client of ours, we actually lend them money. We've given them a loan, so we want to support our corporate customer, and they're a legal entity, so there's nothing wrong with that. And we have a vested interest in helping them thrive because we've lent some money to them as well. So from different perspectives, you would come to different conclusions as to whether giving that data, those data insights to the gambling company was a good thing or not. And the thing, Jen, about ethics, I always find is it doesn't have a clear answer. Not many people leave an ethics board meeting going, wow, that was wonderful. We really cracked it. Most people leave going, that was actually really hard. And we made the right decision. Ethical challenges by their very nature don't have clean answers. Ethics is contextually dependent, it's culturally dependent, based on norms and values and so on. And these really hard to pin down things, which you can't throw a computer problem at it and say, computer, is that ethical or not? Give me an answer. I mean, it just wouldn't be right, which is why ethics committees often involve people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different perspectives, and why ethics committee meetings are actually quite long and drawn out, because they do garner such emotion, interest, and discussion, right? Heated discussion. And I gave this example that I've just given to Jen and your viewers. And someone said to me, well, where do you kind of draw the line, Paul? What if the insurer uses AI insights and sells it to a drinks manufacturing company conglomerate, and they manufacture alcohol? I don't really think that's right. And other people go, yeah, but that's fine. Alcohol is acceptable. It's not quite gambling. And then again, where do you draw the line, right? That I would say maybe that's okay, right? Drinks is more acceptable in our society. In other societies that don't allow alcohol so much, maybe not. So it becomes a very thorny problem with not very clear answers. And I'll stop there because I could talk about it for a lot longer and not get very much further.
No, I think our listeners find it very helpful to get the behind the curtain view. Both you and I have been on and are on ethics boards. It is hard. People think it's going to be so obvious what's right. And it's like, no, there's so many other factors and perspectives, and you offered a view there that different cultures, different people would bring their own lenses of what's good, what's not. And all of that was brought up in an ethics review. So yes, it can be very hard. Our listeners always look forward to knowing what can they do? What can they do today, tomorrow, in their work, in their personal lives to be a more responsible player in this AI world? What are your top tips or tricks for people to leave today with?
Okay, Jen. Look, I mentioned at the beginning, look, embrace AI, accept it is here, and the most powerful and influential companies in the world will be using it. Right? I think that there's no question of that. From everything that I've seen, and I've seen some very powerful cases of generative AI, I think it is here to stay. It will change shape, right? It will mature, just like the World Wide Web went from something really quite basic to being just the way we interact online. I think Gen AI will get there. So embrace it and be open to it. But I think be really careful when you use it. So every time you use ChatGPT or a ChatGPT-like system, chop everything it produces with scrutiny. Be kind of skeptical of the answer and prove to yourself that it's actually correct rather than just accepting it. We refer to something called automation bias, which is the tendency for people to just keep accepting the results from Gen AI and not really checking it, just assuming it's always going to be right because it is so good and it's so plausible. The answers that it gives you, like, wow, that's really insightful. But always check, right? Always check. Going back to my earlier point, think about when you're using it. Think about how often you use it. Think about the things that you use it for. Think whether or not you're getting maybe an unhealthy, I'll call it, attachment to ChatGPT, or if you find yourself thinking, God, it's absolutely brilliant, I can't live without it. I think just check in and go, these are tools. These things, they are meant to be tools. And I refer to that often. It's there to help you, not for it to be like you or a substitute for a person or a substitute for a friend. Really try and have that at the front of your mind. And ultimately, I think it's unfortunate that the term intelligence is used, artificial intelligence. It really is artificial, but people think of intelligence when they think, oh, it's intelligent. It's not intelligence. It is a system that's been created. It's really complicated, and no one can describe how it works. I mean, you can describe the algorithm, but you can't describe when ChatGPT gets a prompt, what it's going to do. That can't predict. You have to let the algorithm in the model do its thing and give an answer. So it's kind of strange that we've created something by humans that actually, when it comes down to it, when it runs and works, we can't tell you how it works. So it's really odd. And I find it kind of paradoxical, but we have landed there. Bear in mind, it's not actually intelligent, right? It is a tool, think a calculator. That's a tool. Think of it like Microsoft Office in some ways. And things that Microsoft Office does when you work is great for communicating, great for building presentations. It's a great thing to help you in your work. Think of it more like a tool for work. And Jen, if I may, I think the last thing we're going to say, if you work in an organization and you want to learn how to implement responsible AI, have a look at my book that's coming out. So I'm publishing a book with two co-authors. It's called Governing the Machine: How to Navigate the Risks of AI and Unlock Its True Potential. So that book, Governing the Machine, is all about how a large organization should put in practice everything they need to make sure that the risks of AI are mitigated and that AI is used for good. And it's got stuff in there about what people in organizations should do, what processes they should adopt, how they should change their IT systems, how they should create an ethics board, and how to really make an organization fit and ready to deploy AI so that risks are navigated. It's not a techie book. It's very much about people. It's very much about organizations. And the advice that we give there is there's a lot an organization needs to do to really make sure that if they're going to use AI either in the company or facing customers, that there's some useful tips in there for how they should do that.
That's fantastic. I love the summary there is AI is not intelligent. It's up to us to check its work. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Paul, for joining us today. Lots of great tips here. I'll put some of the key tips into the show notes. And with that, thank you all for listening and watching AI with GenAI. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.